Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Nerd coming at you with part 4 of this wonderful series on Rolling Stone's top 100 greatest metal albums of all time. So let's get right into this. Number 40 is Mayhem, Die Mysterious Doom Sathanas. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but whatever. I know this is an extremely infamous, album because death and literal deaths around it, suicide and murder. So, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if this would have, I don't know if it would be on this list because just listening to the music, again, just kind of standard black metal. That's all I can say. I don't hate it. That's for sure. But again, and it's not that early of a black metal album. So I think the only reason it's really on here is just because of how infamous this album is. So I guess I just can't musically say it deserves to be here. So that's how I feel about that. Maybe it's a controversial opinion, but it's mine. Moving on, number 39, Pantera, Far Beyond Driven. I'm gonna confess something, guys. I actually did sneak a peek at the rest of this list just to see what else was on here. To see what was in the top 20. I'm gonna admit it because I didn't want to, just spout off at the mouth before anything else. And spoiler alert, this is the only Pantera album in this list. And I like this album, but I would swap this out for Cowboys in Hell in half a second. That album had much more impact than Far Beyond Driven. And I think it's just a better album. Not that like I said, I really enjoy this album. I think it's great, but it's not, it should be Cowboys from Hell, if anything. Sorry. Just how I feel. So I'm going to have to give this one. It does not belong in this list. Simply because I think they picked the wrong goddamned album. Moving on. We got number 38, Iron Maiden's Powerslave. Yeah, I'd say this belongs on the list for sure. It's definitely one of Maiden's masterpieces. So don't really know what else to say about it. There you go. Moving on. Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Again, another excellent Dio release. I would probably swap this out for a solo Dio album. I feel that Dio solo albums were better than his Black Sabbath stuff, but I'm okay with this being on the list because this is a pretty great album. But I don't know. I think I'd swap this out for Holy Diver or something probably, but that's just me. Anyway, moving on. We got another example of non-metal on here. This is, I guess I'd say this is probably the third example of it. Pretty egregious. Def Leppard was very egregiously non-metal, and so is this. I'm not saying this isn't a good album. It is. It's quite good, but it doesn't belong on this list because it's not metal. Sorry, it's just not metal. The end. Moving on. Kill 'Em All. Again, I think they're kind of going too heavily on Metallica. Again, I cheated, guys. They go too heavy on Metallica on this list. They take up too many spots. So if we're talking about influence only, yeah, I'd say probably all their early albums belong on this list because, spoiler alert, they all make the list. But, if we're just talking about what are their best albums or the best albums, again, I don't know if Kill 'Em All belongs on this list. I love Kill 'Em All, but realistically, it's a, like maybe 85 out of 100 is how I would rate it. I wouldn't rate it 100 out of 100. It's somewhat better than the Black Album, but it's definitely not the best from their early period. And yes, it is incredibly important and influential, but does it belong on this list? I don't know. So there you go. Black Sabbath's Master of Reality. They kind of go heavy into Black Sabbath as well. So, I mean, yeah, this is an amazing album. I'll say it belongs on the list, despite, whatever. So, yes, I'll say it. I'll just won't argue with it. Okay, moving on. Countdown to Extinction, Megadeth. Yes, I definitely think this belongs on the list as it's one of my favorite Megadeth albums. But again, they go a little bit heavy into Megadeth, not nearly as much as Metallica, because you see a few more appearances from Megadeth. But whatever, I do think this does belong on the list. So there you go. All right, moving on. We got Black Sabbath Sabotage. Again, I think it's an amazing album. Literally. But again, it's not just my personal opinion of it. It's is this the early Sabbath's best album? I don't know. They're all their early albums. This was their last. Really, in my opinion, with Ozzy, this was their last great album. Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die are totally skippable, but all the other early albums are pretty much must-haves for every metal fan, I'd say. But moving on from that, we got another Slayer album, Seasons in the Abyss. Again, it's an absolutely incredible album, absolutely great. I'll say it belongs on this list, even though I don't like to repeat bands, but whatever. So, moving on. Korn's self-titled debut. Sure. This is not my personal favorite and would not make my top 100 personally, but I can see why it's on the list, and I'm okay with it being on the list. It's fine. It was very important to the genre, so for better or worse, spawning new metal probably did no one any favors, but whatever. Moving on, Chaos AD. Swap this out for Arise. It should be Arise. It should not be this. So I'm going to say no, because this is, again, spoiler alert, I know I'm giving it away. This is the only Sepultura album on the list, and this was the wrong choice. I'm sorry. Should be Arise. Or Beneath the Remains. Whichever. All right, moving on. 28, Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales. Yeah, sure. Celtic Frost, incredibly important to extreme metal, I would say. This is a foundational album for extreme metal, and it's extremely good. So, yeah, I'm good with it being on the list. So, there you go. Absolutely, yes, should be on there. Okay, so moving on. Okay, System of a Down, Toxicity. Yeah, absolutely. This is an absolutely fantastic masterpiece of an album. I know it made it into my top 50 metal albums that I own. I'm pretty sure it did anyway. Yeah, so yes, this does belong on the list. Moving on. Alice in Chains, Dirt. Yes, yes. I think I would agree with that. I think Alice in Chains does, fall onto the metal side. So to me, this is kind of a no-brainer to have it on here. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Metallica's Black Album. It's my least favorite Metallica album of the first 5. I think it's a good album. It's I like it. And I know Jesus Criminy is probably the second most. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's probably in the top 10 most influential metal albums ever. And that's just because of its commercial success. I mean, I'm okay with it being on this list. I'm just not over the moon about it because this is obviously not their best album, but it's good. And it is, it sold a ridiculous number of copies, so it's fine. All right, moving on. Rage Against the Machine's debut. Sure, yes. Rage is a very important band, did a lot, and this is a pretty damn good album. So I'm good with it being on the list. There you go. Moving on. Danzig, self-titled. Obviously, I know Mother because everyone knows Mother. I gave the rest of this album a listen, and I think it's fine. But I don't know if it belongs in the top 100. I think the only reason it's here is because of the song Mother. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's pretty good, but I don't know if it really belongs on this list. So there you go. Moving on from that. We got another Motley Crue album here. Again, I like this. I think it's good, but that's not just what it's about. Does it belong in the top 100? I'm going to say no. I don't think Too Fast for Love belongs in the top 100. It just doesn't. It's good, but it's not, Shout at the Devil, honestly, is better. So, and we already covered that album. So there you go. And that's why I brought it up. So anyway, moving on. Number 21, And Justice for All. Again, going heavy into the Metallica. It's one of my personal favorite albums. But again, the whole band. I mean, I'm okay with it being on the album. Jesus Christ. I'm okay with it being on the list because it is one of my favorite albums. But again, I don't like it when one band makes these lists 20 million times. So I'm going to give this like a lukewarm approval to be on this list, just like the other Metallica albums up to this point have all kind of been lukewarms because we all know the album really that should be on here. And here's spoiler alert, it's definitely in their top 20. Unsurprisingly, it's high in the list. So anyway, but whatever. I'm good with it being on the list, and that is more or less it for part 4 of this wonderful thing. Next one, we're obviously going to be going 20 right to number 1 with a rocket. So hopefully, we see some. There have been some notable absences from this list so far. And I do have some bad news. If you think you're going to see them, you probably won't. So, yeah. Spoiler alert. But anyway, that's basically it. I hope you guys liked this. As always, live long and prosper. Keep on rocking.